begin with, I just wanted to ask you both briefly introduce yourselves and share your background in filmmaking. How did you start and how did you get to this point of today?
Sure. I actually started exactly about 9 years ago when I turned 40, and I've never made a film in my life before that, but I've always kind of knew that this is what I was meant to do. And I started off not knowing anything and kind of made my way through making a few short films, then eventually got very lucky, sold one of them, got to do a feature, sold that, and then I swore I would never go back to short films. But an opportunity came, and I felt I had to tell the story that we did with Hedgehog when the conflict between Ukraine and Russia occurred, and here we are.
I grew up, studying and playing music. I started on violin when I was a kid, and continued learning. And then right after high school, actually, I moved out to LA and I got a an internship at what was called Media Ventures back in those days, which was Hans Zimmer's studio, and got to kind of hang around there and be a fly in the wall. And there was a ton of wealth of composers. There was obviously Hans was there at the time. There was other people like Ramin who, from scoring Game of Thrones and other things. He was there at the time as an assistant still. There was like Jeff Rona, Harry Gregson Williams, all these great guys. And then after that, I worked for an arranger and orchestrator for about 7 or 8 years, and eventually just jumped off the deep end and decided to quit my job and fully go into film scoring. And I feel like I was lucky at the time because I was surrounded by friends who were actually talented filmmakers and who were making really cool indie short films and stuff. So I was able to work on projects that I really cared about and that I liked a lot. And then from there, just kind of built, and was super happy to meet Dimitri and see the beautiful film that he made.
I just wanted to make a quick note before we could continue. So my concept of they usually call director the filmmaker. I do not agree with this because I think personally that film is such collaborative process, and for me, everyone who's involved is a filmmaker because they're making
Yeah.
film. So if we're referring to any of your experiences as filmmaker, we're referring to both of you. Just you only don't feel that we are talking to Dmitry all of the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Because you are also a filmmaker in at least in my eyes.
So I just really want to ask a question about, well, Dimitri, really, this one is for. I guess, how do you generate the ideas for films? Obviously, you said you've done features and shorts. So, what's the process of, or where do the ideas come from, other than obviously this one is quite a major topic that we've been talking about. So,
It's a great question because there is no set way how they come about. And people ask me like, what genre do you like working best at, or what type of story speaks to you best? And I always tell them the same thing. It doesn't matter as long as I could feel the story and as long as I could go through the story myself as every single character in it, being writer and director. Obviously, I feel that I could do the justice of translating it to the screen in the proper way where the audiences would be able to feel as such.
But can you tell us a little bit more about the creative process? So how you started, how you get other people on board, including Ali, how you kind of develop the idea from the moment of first spark, oh, I want to make this film, till the moment of being on set, making it actually.
Well, let's start off by saying that I wasn't born in the US. I was born in the region. I was born in Belarus. I'm very familiar with the region. I'm fluent in, you could say I'm fluent in Ukrainian about 80%, about Belarusian about 95%, and of course 100% in Russian because I come from the USSR. And having been brought up in the US since I was 15, I sort of consider myself as an American citizen, and yet I still speak fluently in Russian without an accent. And once something like this happened, obviously having some family in both parts, in um, and friends in Russia and Ukraine, and finding them become really enemies overnight was very odd to me. And we hear all the media, and obviously having the advantage of listening to the media in all different languages, I was able to do that, and I still couldn't understand. And I guess it is my subconscious way of sort of telling this story of like of how I felt it, because I was sort of stuck in the middle, because and it was a very delicate moment, because I didn't know how to tell the story in a delicate way, and perhaps that's why I thought that a voice of a 6-year-old little girl would be a delicate way to present this type of matter, because ultimately the film is not about the war. Well, you always need to have a little bit of luck when you do these things, especially when you're doing an indie style film, and especially when you're doing in this thematic, and you want to make it now. And so you just I wrote the script in 5 days, and normally for me it's a meditation process where I sort of feel through it, and then I just go lock myself and pretty much just do it like nonstop. And then once the script was done, I shared with my partner, who I'm very lucky to have, my wife, Citlali Ruiz, and Tali. We call her Tali because nobody can pronounce her first name, Citlali. And Tali felt that we could put this story together, being 6 months pregnant. And so um, we started making phone calls. And again, it's accident after accident, meaning I didn't know Ali at the time, but a mutual friend had introduced us. And my process is always, I want to before I cast anyone, including the editor, including the composer, or including anyone, I want to send them the script. I want to send them the script and see how they feel about it. And I remember sending Ali the script, and he just responded almost immediately after he read the script. He's like, "I want to be part of this." And I'm like, "I don't know if we can afford you." He's like, "No, regardless, I want to be part of this." And and it was, we hit it off immediately. And I listened to some of Ali's music, obviously, before I reached out to him. And I was like, "Oh my God, if this guy goes with us to do this film, it's definitely going to take this film to another level."
Yeah, definitely. For me, yeah, I think reading the script, you know, the script really spoke to me. I don't read that many scripts, to be honest with you, but I read this one and I loved it. I thought the perspective of how it was written and everything uh, was great. And then when I saw the first cuts, I was amazed. I feel like it turned out even better than I thought it would. Just the way it was shot, the acting, even the early edits and everything. Um, but then additionally, I think Dimitri and I just had a similar idea or approach, or in terms of how to approach the music, which I think is important, because there's nothing worse than working on a film and having kind of alternate takes of what the music should be doing in a film. So I think in this, it just kind of clicked right from the get-go, and I think there was like a mutual language and agreement of what was needed musically on it. So yeah, it was great.
Uh, I will remind you of the moment. And I was sitting in the car, I remember, and Ali had just read the script, and he says to me, "Well, how do you see the music?" And I just said one word to him. I said, "Invisible."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he's like, "I got it."
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, which I totally agree. I think with the film, the way it was shot, the pacing, the acting, everything, I think it was so beautiful, and it's the sort of film where you don't want the music to be too heavy-handed or try to color the film too much or necessarily tell you what to feel or what to think. But it has to be there, it has to be a presence to some degree and underscore slightly what the actors are doing, you know. And so, you know, we try to focus on working with very delicate musical aspects. Like there's one cue where the strings are all playing just harmonic so that it's just like a very sort of a hollow, simple light tone over it, you know, instead of having like a big melodic gesture there. Things like that, I think.
It's actually an interesting point. I personally think that composers are the most humble people in the film production, because they need to make something which is, as you said, is invisible. People need to feel music, not to listen to it, right?
Exactly.
So kind of, if the actor is like, you can see the performance and you know the name of the actor or the director, composer should be invisible. So it's
exactly,
like,
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I obviously depends on the genre. I feel like there's obviously contrasting genres and styles. If you're making a horror or something, obviously you might want the music to be a big character or whatever. But I think in this, it was, yeah, it was very important to be invisible in that sense, you know. Also, because I feel like you want the reality of the film and the reality of the situation to be present and not to get lost and not to feel too much like a fairy tale or, you know.
I'm going to ask both of you this question, but I presume it's more sort of Dimitri's field here. With in terms of, did you have any major challenges, you know, during the filming, or you know, getting it made, or anything that came up?
You know, every time you step on the set, and when you're creating an indie film, you're facing challenges. And this one, not only my wife and one of the producers who was 6 months pregnant, but we had to recreate Ocean City, Maryland into Ukraine. And we had to make it look authentic. And we were 5 weeks after the script was written, we were already shooting. So it was a lot of luck that happened. And you know, we didn't have, for example, our Baba, the grandma of the girl, and it just happened. And another example how the universe manifests itself. She was living next door to the property. She was Ukrainian. She's never had acting experience. And so a lot of the things came from her home, and she kindly agreed for me to work with her 2 weeks prior to the shoot, and she was able to pull this off. And so it's just a couple of little things like that. And you know, you only get 3 days to shoot this thing because it's indie and it's quick. But I cannot stress enough how much the community of Ocean City, Maryland and Berlin, Maryland helped us. They put all the actors in the hotels and right on the ocean, 4-star restaurants, catered food, like the whole community came together. So it was just really, truly magical.
That's amazing. It was one of our future questions to you. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on what you just mentioned about the recreating Ukrainian village in US city. So can you tell anything about production design and how exactly, because it looks pretty authentic, I would say, because I'm also very familiar with like Russian villages, Ukrainian villages, and was quite believable that it's not US.
Well, Dietrich Kotero, who was our production designer, did absolutely a magnificent job. I'm going to say she had 3 prep days with a few carpenters, and she did an extensive research, and we were able, again, from Nadia Lipowak, who played Baba, we were able to get some of the icons and some of the eggs and some of the plates from her. And it was just, and the house was there. We had slightly changed the renderings around windows, and we had slightly manufactured some movie stuff, so it looks a little bit more alone in the forest. But the property that we shot actually is 100. Oh my God, is it 100? It's 100 or 150-acre property that was just donated to us to do whatever we wanted to do, because the stories spoke so much to them. And so we literally were in the forest on this property, and it was just really, it's just magnificent and miraculous, really.
I have next question to Ali, or I see he's going to be bored with us talking with Mitry.
No, not at all. This is fascinating for me to listen to all this also.
So coming back to previous Darren's note about the challenges, did you have any challenges? And also I will add to this, so what was your approach when you started working with the score for the film, which delves in such a sensitive and emotional subject matter as Ukrainian war, and you don't, as I understand, probably have the same links and connections as Mitry. So what was your approach? What were your musical inspirations, references, and challenges?
Definitely. I feel like challenges don't measure up to Dimitri's. I think it depends on it depends on the score, but you know, I feel like my hat's off to filmmakers. I know what they go through and what goes into making a film and everything that they have to solve, all the fires they have to put out to, you know, work with so many different people and so many different departments and make everything go right in the end. As far as the approach, yeah, I don't have specifically a Ukrainian or Russian background, but I am actually from Europe originally. I was born in Vienna, Austria, and I grew up in Germany partially. So there's at least, you know, a European background. But I think in this case, the idea was not to necessarily draw from Russian or Ukrainian melodic material or music. You know, I think that's kind of a decision that has to be made. But I feel like with certain films, it's nice to not cater too much to that or not make it sound too obvious, you know, in that sense, and basically have the score be more like a character or like something that supports the emotion and what's happening in the film and the pictures and the visuals and so on. So when I started working with him, usually what I do is I try a variety of ideas. So I think I took one or two of the scenes and wrote a few different ideas, and I have a cellist that I like working with a lot. He's actually Russian. But he's a great cellist. He sounds, you know, always sounds incredible. And we recorded a bunch of these melodies and ideas and stuff, and tried them to picture, and I sent them to Mitry. And from there, we kind of honed in. I think the main direction that we went is always trying to basically make the music more invisible, you know, because the first impulse or instinct is, you know, write some melodic material, write something that goes over it. But I think we just found the more we tried things that it was nice to like really have the music just be like a whisper under certain scenes and just be the right emotion or the right approach, I guess.
Did you try to have any references to like Ukrainian musical traditions or historical references or something connected?
No, in this case we didn't. I think we
just wanted to create something for global audience so that everyone feel connected, doesn't matter where they're from.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like there's, with films that very obviously take place in a certain, or where the location is a key factor, I think there's kind of two approaches. One is that you really draw on the traditions of the music and the melodies and styles and so on. And the other is that you kind of go the opposite direction and let the film show you where it's from and the acting and everything, and have the music more be a score that's not trying to force the location too much, you know. Like, for example, there's a different film I did, but I remember watching The Banshees of Inisherin, and when I listened to the score at first, I was wondering why they didn't go more Irish, because my family lives in Ireland, and I've spent a lot of time out there, and the music had nothing to do with Irish music. But then I remember reading an interview by the director, and his big note to the composer there was that he specifically did not want any Irish music, or he didn't want to draw on Irish melodies or anything, you know. The exception obviously being the characters, you know, fiddle playing in it. And I think it's a very different film, obviously, but this is a similar approach. It's purposefully not trying to sound Ukrainian or not trying to sound Russian, or, you know, because I feel like it could potentially just be too obvious of a choice.
So in terms of well, both of you, awards, really, if you get any awards for films, and obviously one was from our festival, how does that you know, sort of translate into how your career goes, and what do they mean to you, awards, and how do you, you know, like sort of use them, or what, you know, what extra benefits do you get from various awards?
Thank you so much. I was super happy. I think for me, I love the awards because I feel like indie filmmaking is a something you do for passion. You know, it's like working on indie films is something, you're not doing it for financial gain or anything. It's something because you can only do it if you really love film, and if you love what you're working on, if you truly believe in the projects that you're working on. And I think film festivals, and the awards you get and the recognition that you get in the audience and community that you see in film festivals, I think is crucial to indie film, you know, and I think is really important for the film market, because that's where the films get seen. That's where you discover other films, you know, other filmmakers. That's where you learn about the craft and get inspired by other things and so on. So I think it's really important. And then for me, also the other benefit obviously was I was super happy to see that there was the Spitfire audio connection, just because I love their sample libraries. And yeah, that was a great
Yeah, that
benefit.
was good. There, they were, you know, gracious enough to sort of, you know, when I approached them, they were sort of more than willing to, you know, to sort of provide that. So it was really, really good of them to do that. The word on the awards as well. I don't know if we mentioned before that that's all recycled plastic. The plastic that's in that has come from recycled, like bottle caps and various things. There's even little bits of green fishing net in there. That's
Oh,
you know, so,
wow.
yeah. So we kind of went with a company that sort of do all that, and we actually helped. No, I designed the award and we helped make it, but we're
Oh,
really
beautiful.
getting behind that project that they're trying to, you know, reuse this plastics. And it was us being by the bay as well, sort of our Morecambe Bay, you know, with the sort of marine life and things, and so many plastics ending up in the ocean. We sort of kind of like that approach, so we sort of went with that, and you know, they turned out really well, we thought, as well. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
always good.
beautiful. I think it's great.
I'm
Wow.
following you on social media and seeing that you are getting now and then here and there, and it's so nice to follow the filmmakers we know and their success. So, can you tell more about other awards?
Like Ali said, it's very important to get recognized by for the work that you do, and of course, it's very pleasing to get an award. I'm very happy for Ali. With this film, we were just so blessed. We've gotten 21 awards for this films, 49 selections, and 3 weeks ago we have been, or 4 weeks ago we have been officially Oscar qualified by the Academy. So the film is pending at the screening room.
Wow.
Um,
So you're the second film from our screened films who is qualified to Oscars.
Yeah, so we're pending, and we should know by the end of the year if there's any news. But for me personally, I'm at the point where you know, obviously it's very nice and it's beautiful for me. I love the process in itself, and I mm, I understand the festivals are important, and I try to do as much as I can. But for me, I enjoy the process a lot. What it does do for me and why it is important for me, it's just, I guess, in the industry, I guess it's a credibility factor. Okay, you know, these guys, I guess they know how to make movie or something.
What, again, question to both of you, because you approached the same task from different directions. What was your idea? What reactions or emotions did you hope to evoke from your audiences after they watched the film? So obviously many short films have open answers, open kind of endings and more questions than answers. But what feelings, what did you want your audience to feel?
I feel like a great work of art should be like a bit of a mirror for oneself. Like it shouldn't be forcing you to feel anything necessarily or tell you specifically what a situation is or what's right or wrong. But I feel like a great work of art, you view it and everyone gets something personal from it, and realizes something, that's personal to them, I feel like. So I think like with Hedgehog, I think it also gives you a certain perspective. I think what I like about it is with the war, there's obviously a big focus on the war, on the politics, on this and that, but this is not about the war, but it takes the perspective of a child, who's not caught up in the conflict, who, uh, she doesn't hate the soldier or anything because of where he's from. There's like that innocence there, and she sees other human beings as other human beings, and can differentiate.
Well, you all say that it's not film about the war, but it's about that's why it fits so well to our category of this year, the impacts of war. That's how
Exactly.
What's happening because of the war with people, how they are impacted, how their lives are impacted. That's what topic we wanted to talk about with the audiences, mostly because we were kind of, I wouldn't say inspired, but kind of triggered by the Ukrainian war, and we wanted to talk about other wars as well, Second World War or any other existing war. What is war and why in the 21st century we are still having it?
Yeah, and how it affects people in all kinds of ways, isn't it? It's not just the people fighting or the people. It's so many knock-on effects it has as well.
I think just to touch on what Ali was saying, there's a fine, there's very thin line between ambiguity and confusion. You want to be ambiguous, and I think this is such a simple story if you look at it from a very simple eye point. It's about a girl. She meets this guy. It's a friend. She wants to help a friend. They're friends. And then there is just so much in it that is not told, which is embedded into it. And I feel that I wanted that feeling be the 20 lines or 18 lines of the dialogue that's in it. Another character was Ali's music and that sound of the wind. And I wanted the audiences to make the decision for themselves. And oftentimes, and I've had dirty looks at major festivals where people are like, how dare you to put this type of story? And I had people come to me and hug me and said, please keep doing what you're doing. And there's always one question that seems to come is like, well, does she kill him or does she not? And I said, are you asking me as a director? Are you asking me as a person? Because I guess I wanted that answered by the people who watch it, by the audience. So ultimately, it's the choice for the audience to make.
What advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers or composers in creating short films or films, films in general, and any experiences that you or things now that you didn't know earlier on and would be useful to either yourself now or somebody coming up through?
I guess for me, the advice would be just grind it. Don't give it up, because there's in my experience, fairly short-lived experience in the film world, one thing has always been common. There comes a point sometime from the moment you have an idea to the moment you put this film out there, where there's just no way it's going to happen. There's no way this film is going to happen. Whether it's a financial issue where somebody is going to come, the director of photography, the composer, the actor, whatever is going to happen, but it's just not happening. Well, in my experience, it always does happen, and that point always comes. You just have to grind it through, and just so many films do not get made because just a little bit of that, and just keep on going, keep on going.
Yeah, for film scores, I'm trying to think. I feel like there's so much advice, but I feel like it's important to work on films for the right reasons and to, really be passionate about the projects that you work on and really put everything you have into it and try to think outside the box, because I feel like just looking at what a film is to a filmmaker, in certain films, you see filmmakers dedicate years of their lives to a film and put so much of their own resources and money into things, or their own, time and everything, energy and so on. And it's just important to really care about the project and really try to match what the rest of the crew and the rest of the filmmaker, like what it means to them, I guess, and try to make a great work of art as best as you can.
I could tell you a memorable experience how this film got funded. So when we didn't have any money, and we thought, oh, well, that's okay. We'll probably max another one of our credit cards, and we'll probably do it here. We'll recreate New York for Ukraine. We called a dear friend who actually has a pretty big production company in Ocean City, Maryland, and we had met him at a Julian Dubuque International Film Festival with a feature that we had a year before. And we knew that he's an avid collector of weapons. And we said, hey, we're looking for AKs, the Russian Kalashnikov and Ukrainian Kalashnikovs. And he says, well, which one do you want? I said, well, which one do you have? He says, I have them both. Why are you asking? He said, well, I just wrote this film and I'm thinking of doing it. He said, send me the script. Literally, okay, let's say 2 hours later, I think it was earlier, but he calls me up, says, get in the car, we'll find you the money. And we had no idea if he was bluffing, because we've never done films with him before. And we got in the car and we just went to Ocean City and we started doing casting process on the way. And we saw Emma Pearson, Emma, whose eyes were just so magnificent. And we're like, oh my God, please be good, when we asked her to audition. And she was amazing. It's just, and that's how really it all got started. And then, people like Ali, like Chris Witt, the editor, William Tabano, sound designer. I mean, Deidre, who was the production designer. But my biggest thanks to my partner in crime, my wife, and my amazing producer, Sitlali Ruiz Tali, and yeah, she's just thank God this film gets made.
That's great. It's always great to have partners who are supporting you in this crazy experience of making short films. That's another question I could ask you about the girl, the actress, and overall experience working with her, because working with kids actors is a bit different compared to working with adult actors. And also, is she connected with Russia or Ukraine or not?
Oh, she's actually Russian.
Okay.
And
but was she born in the US?
She was born in the US.
So she's not speaking Russian or Ukrainian.
She speaks fluent Russian, actually, because both of her parents are Russian, and so she speaks fluently Russian. And I do agree with you. It's very tough to work with young kids, and I think again we just got very lucky. Emma was like a total pro. She took direction so well, and just she was such a trooper, and it was just amazing. It was meant to be, I guess.
Can you briefly tell us what things you've got upcoming? Any projects or anything we should be looking out for, or you're interested to tell us about?
Well, we're actually, Ali and I, we're actually working on a new project in post-production. right
Oh,
now, and it's geometrically opposite.
Okay, is it a dark comedy?
It's about festivals, film
Okay.
festivals.
oh, wow.
It's a pilot for a TV series. It's a mockumentary style, sort of kind of like Parks and Rec, Arrested Development,
Mhm.
maybe meets a little bit of Guy Ritchie type of pace, where this Midwest Festival is celebrating its 25th anniversary, and the woman who owns the festival has a freak accident, and by legal quirk, her son, who absolutely knows nothing about running a festival, winds up being in the midst of it all, has to navigate all the nonsense with 3 days before all the filmmakers come. Of course, he goes and spends all the money, and here it is, the opening ceremonies, and see what happens.
Oh,
That
that
sounds
sounds great.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very good luck with it. What's the
Is it picked
title?
up by anybody yet? Sorry, I was just going to say, is it?
It's where it's always a gamble, you just
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. But I don't know, Ali. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think anyone is going to pick this up?
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
It's always,
Yeah.
we like what we see, but
Well, thank you very much, both. That was amazing talking with you. Amazing to
Yes.
see you in
Okay.
person finally.
congratulations. That's amazing. And
Congratulations. Yeah.
we're, who knows? We're gonna try maybe submitting film next year. Let's see what happens.
As an
Great.
award-winning filmmaker from our festival, you have lifetime free submission access to our festival. So
Oh, wow.
whatever short you do next, please do come and share it with us. We will be happy to have it.
Thank you. That means a lot.